Alright folks, welcome to week 9. So what we're looking at today is evaluating research sources. Okay, this is going to be a big deal because there's a lot of unreliable information out there. So this really is going to be about figuring out where your sources are coming from and how reliable they are. Okay, where do they lie in terms of trustworthiness? Okay, so this is going to give you some quick ways to know what kind of reliability your sources have, both in print and web sources. We're going to look at some major organizations and how they align in terms of trustworthiness and also along their ideology. And we're also going to take a look at a way that you can test yourself to help you detect trolls, basically. People that are operating in misinformation. Alright, so let's talk about reliability of sources. Once you have performed research on your topic, you need to go through your resources and evaluate them for use in your essay. Okay. Now, this is assuming that you have already gone through your research and you've pulled your sources and figured out what you want to use, what aligns with your what you're trying to say. Sources have to be evaluated in a critical manner, looking for anything that might disqualify them or call their reliability into question. So you have to approach your resources with a huge grain of salt. You have to approach them with a critic's eye, a cynical eye actually, to try to determine whether they are useful, trustworthy, if they're even worth your time. Many times, evaluating a resource is more than just confirming the facts presented are correct. The process also involves evaluating how the facts are presented, the context of that presentation, and the tone the original author gives to the presentation of the facts. So there is a possibility that you could have a 100% factual presentation, but it's presented in a way that makes it suspect. Okay, it's presented with a tone that makes the analysis of it suspect. Okay, so how do you evaluate a mountain of research and narrow it down to something more reasonable? Okay, one way you can approach that is by reading rhetorically. Okay, read the sources with your own goals in mind. That is, focus on the information that will directly help or hurt your own essay's argument. Look for that information. Try to figure out what you want to keep, what you want to leave out. Okay. Also think of the focus of your questions. In early research, you're going to find that overviews are more useful to give you a handle on the subject. So abstracts, summaries, anything that you find in regards to your possible research sources, that's going to help you to determine what you want to use. When you go further along with research, you want to analyze how others are utilizing information, the practical uses, and to keep your mind open to ideas about your information, okay, and how it's being used. Okay, so take a look at how other people are using the same set of facts. What are they using? What kind of points are they using to prove? And then read the sources in a rhetorical manner. Evaluate the sources based on questioning their source. Again, reading like a cynic. Reading like you are going to be 100% skeptical of anything that they have to say until they can prove their worth. So let's go into how to perform a critical rhetorical reading. So a few things to look at. Okay, break it down. First off, who is the author? Okay, who is the author of the work? What kind of credentials do they have? What kind of affiliations do they have? What kind of educational background? Okay, what is their knowledge base? What is their experience base in terms of their career, in terms of their education, in terms of their prior experiences with the subject? With articles, you easily look for credentials at the end of them. That's typically where they're published in periodicals. They'll put the credentials of the author at the very end. So you can find out where they work, what colleges they've attended, what their reputation is, what kind of certifications they have, that sort of thing. You can also run a Google search for the author. And hopefully that'll give you some more information. Hopefully somebody has some further information on other works this person has written. If it's like an academic Maybe you'll find some reference to them on a site like LinkedIn or anything like that, so that you know what they do and whether their credentials are legitimate. Also, look for other works by the same author. What kind of other things has that author written? Are they writing mostly stuff in the same vein as what you're using for your research, which will actually help to confirm that they are a good resource. Now, this is one thing that will probably help you. There are a lot of authors out there that write for series books, and this could be nonfiction series, it could be fiction series, okay? Especially if they're writing for a nonfiction series, you want to make sure that they know what they're talking about, okay? For instance, if anybody's familiar with the For Dummies line of nonfiction books, okay? They're all instructional, mostly self-help in nature, okay? But they are also very reliable because they never have the same author twice, okay? Every time you see a For Dummies book, it's written by an expert in the field. So they have reliability there. Contrast that with a critical thinking example that I was actually given in 6th grade. Involved a cartoon about some kids who were trying to solve a series of thefts. And in order to do that, they were consulting with a book called How to Be a Detective. Okay? And the particular book had a lot of stuff in it, but it was all Hollywood cliche detective stuff, like the culprit always returns to the scene of the crime. You can tell who's guilty by how they act, how they talk, whatever. Okay, the kids found it was pretty useless, so they actually did a little bit further investigation. And what they found out was that same author had written a series of 35 how to be a different career books. Okay, and they were not even closely related to each other. Some of the other titles they found: how to be an airline pilot, how to be a nurse, how to be a lawyer. Okay, there was a lot of stuff there. None of them were even remotely related to how to be a detective. Okay, so really that kind of got them feeling maybe this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, so first off, consider the author. Second, consider the source's genre. Okay, who is the intended audience of that particular work? Okay, how do you find that? Well, look at the original publication information. Okay, that will give you an idea of who the audience is intended to be. That will also give you an idea of what level of audience it's written for, so that way you also know whether it's going to be useful. For instance, if it's something that was written for an academic journal or a publication like the New England Journal of Medicine, okay, things like that, that's pretty reliable because those are written by professionals in the field. Okay, they are peer reviewed by professionals in the field, and the intended audience is professionals in the field. Okay, so original publication information is going to be vital to determining whether it's trustworthy. Okay, also look at in the original publication, look at what the other articles are. Okay, what kind of other stuff are they producing? What kind of other stuff are they publishing? Okay. Sometimes that leads to interesting situations where you have a trustworthy, you have kind of a trustworthy and really good resource who's somebody's like an academic, but it's put out in a publication that is decidedly non-academic. Okay, one of my favorite examples of this was in my senior year in high school. My high school composition teacher, high school English, I took a college composition course. He had a literature requirement that he had to meet. So there was only one book that he assigned to everybody, and that was 1984, okay, by George Orwell. If you probably by this time are at least somewhat familiar with 1984. So as a companion to that assignment, he also handed out a copy of an article called 1994, which was written in the actual 1984, and it was written by a futurist who was trying to predict how much, who was trying to talk about how much Orwell got right in that book and how much could still happen in the next 10 years. Okay, really in-depth, really fascinating article. It was really well written. It was very serious in nature. Okay, here's the problem. It was published in Playboy. Okay, which is decidedly non-academic magazine. But the thing that might surprise you is for years and years and years, that magazine was actually used as a serious outlet for writers. Okay, there are a lot of authors who actually got their start writing stuff for Playboy. Some of them include J.D. Salinger. Okay, he wrote a series of stories surrounding his character Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye. They published Playboy. Okay, Shel Silverstein wrote poetry for Playboy. Okay, there's a lot of other authors out there. Ray Bradbury wrote stuff that appeared in Playboy. Okay, it was considered to be a serious outlet for writers, but the joke is, yeah, it's a softcore porn mag. But why are they getting all these guys to write for it? Okay, so this is one of those times when there's going to be a disconnect between reliability of the source and where that source came from. Okay, that isn't to say that the source isn't reliable. It's just that that's going to be a strike against it. All right. So next, what is the author's purpose? Okay, what is the driving force behind them writing that particular work? How is the author attempting to shape the audience's views? What are they actually trying to do? Is the piece expressive, informational, analytical, or persuasive? Okay, so let's talk briefly about the difference between all of these four types of writing. Expressive is going to be more artistic in nature. It's going to count things like poetry, fiction, literary nonfiction, things like that. Okay. Informational works. Informational works are strictly research papers. These are going to be works that are 100% based on fact. They're not really going to present an argument. They're just going to show you what's going on. A lot of journalistic writing is going to fall under this category. Analytical. This is going to be more in terms of, now we're getting into something that presents an opinion. But as somebody who is analyzing the situation based on the facts that are apparent. Okay, so it's not that they're trying to convince you that their side is right and happen to find the evidence. They're actually starting with the evidence and then trying to show what that evidence is leading to. Okay, and then finally we have the persuasive, and these are the guys that are really argumentative. These are the guys that fall into the category of pundits. Okay, they're going to try to hammer home that they have the right opinion and the opposition be damned. Okay, so try to think of the four different types of writing. Look at your source and see what type of writing it is. Okay. Next thing, who sponsored the site it came from? This is going to determine whether you have a conflict of interest or not. Okay, if there's going to be some sort of motivation for that particular author to write something more friendly to their sponsor. Okay, the example I always give of this is the situation with Andrew Wakefield, with his study that was supposedly showed that a certain company's MMR vaccine triggered autism in children. But he never disclosed the fact that there was a competing pharmaceutical company who was developing an MMR vaccine who was trying to discredit their competition and drive their sales. So they brought in Wakefield to do this phony baloney study. Okay? But by the time everybody found out about that, it had already been published in the Lancet, and the anti-vax guys were already in full swing. Okay? So keep that in mind. If it's coming from somebody that has a vested interest in the outcome of the work, that will automatically make it suspicious. Okay, that will make it suspect. Also, what's the publication's reputation? And we were just talking about that a little bit with the Playboy example. But if it's something where the publication is particularly known for a certain type of opinion or a certain reliability, okay, then that's going to affect what the author's purpose is. Are they going to try to convince you, or are they not going to even bother? Okay. This is the difference between somebody who is writing for Time magazine and somebody who's writing for the Weekly Inquirer or National Enquirer. Okay, one of them is a well-respected news magazine. It's very serious. They do a lot of stuff. They have a sterling reputation for over 100 years. The other one's a supermarket tabloid. Okay, reputation of the publication there. Okay, writers for the National Enquirer are not going to be at the same standard that Time writers are. Then what is the author's angle or bias? Okay, where are they coming from? What kind of viewpoint do they have? What data and information does the author cite? This is important because they may not be citing all of it. They may not be giving you enough information to make a conscious decision whether they're being upfront with you or not. Maybe they're not showing you the whole picture. Okay. What are the author's underlying values, assumptions, and beliefs? And is that going to be coloring what they're going to say about it? Are they going to be putting stuff in that explicitly follows that belief system or explicitly follows that set of values, makes their assumptions correct? Okay. Also, think about what's not included. Are they leaving out any mitigating evidence that may prove their point to be wrong, but they're leaving it out because it makes them look bad? Okay. What's not included is actually an interesting deal because that becomes important when you're dealing with things like court cases. There is a standard that a prosecutor has to share all evidence with the defense in order to have a fair trial. Okay, there have been numerous cases lately where prosecutors have been caught not giving all the evidence. They've been caught withholding evidence, which has led to retrials and have ultimately led to acquittals when they previously had convictions because they had done exactly this. They basically cheated in the trial and instead of giving all the information they had, they basically gave a half-hearted attempt at getting all the discovery out there and wound up basically messing up their own case. So let's talk about taking purposeful notes. So think about it like this. How do you typically take notes in a class? Okay. You basically just sit with the sitting there listening to the lecturer, writing down what you do, what he says, writing down your if any interpretations. Okay. Using some kind of shorthand to help you along. For instance, I will say that my when I was taking American history in high school, my notebooks tended to have little pictograms depicting what was going on in the history lecture. Okay? So there's a lot of ways that you can take notes. Now, the difference here is we're talking about taking notes from research. Okay? Many students doing initial research are simply going to photocopy their sources. I can't emphasize enough how much this is a bad idea. Okay? What this will actually do is lead to regurgitation rather than original ideas. You're not going to be analyzing information and putting it into your own perspective, putting it your own spin on it. You're just going to be looking at the paper and saying, oh, that's interesting. Copy, paste. Okay? We don't want to do that. Okay? So how should notes be taken? There is a guideline to taking purposeful notes. Okay? Here's the way it basically works. There are 3 things that you need to collect for every research source that you have. One is bibliographical information. This is important so that you can put together your works cited page and do it in the proper formatting. Okay, so you need the article name, you need the author name, you need the name of the title of the publication that came in, the date it was published, and the publisher of that publication. Okay. You have informational notes on the source. Okay, so where it came from, where did it come from, what pages in the bibliographical information, what page out of that publication did it come from? Okay, what other material was presented in the same issue of the publication? You might also want to include some quotes from the source. Okay, what does the source have to say? What are some things that you might be able to integrate? Also look at exploratory notes. And it needs to be self-evaluation of the value of the source, any questions that the source raises, and some ideas about how the source's information fits in with your thesis. So really we're talking about 3 columns here. First column, we're going to be putting out your bibliographical information. Second column, that's the stuff that you're deriving directly from the source. That is the quotes, that is the page numbers, that's going to be the material that's around it, the other material that's in the publication. And then you have the third column. Third column is your exploratory notes. That's going to be where you write down what the value of that source is going to be. Okay. Let's talk about functions of sources. Okay. There's 4 primary functions that you have for sources in your research. Okay. One obvious one is background information, where it presents perspective for the subject in a greater context. Okay, you're going to be trying to show where that information fits in the bigger picture, where your subject fits in the bigger picture. Okay, why is it important? What is going on with it? Your research could act as an alternative view. So, one of 2 ways it could do this. It could be counter to your thesis, in which case you want to summarize that source and then respond by refuting that particular point. Refuting whatever is that source has to say about your subject that's opposite to what your argument is. It could be agreeing with your thesis, in which case you just have to mention briefly, hey, these guys agree. This guy agrees. This guy agrees too. Hey, these guys over here, they also agree. Okay? It could be used for information or testimony. Okay? So this is, at this point, you're using as evidence for your own thesis. Okay, information that you draw from it could be used to prove your thesis. It could be used to show what somebody has experienced with the subject, their story about it, their thesis about it. If it's counter to your position, it could raise doubts about your thesis. Okay, so you want to make sure of what you're using. Mainly, you just want to use the stuff that helps your thesis, but you need to acknowledge that there's some information out there that might be counter to it. In which case, you want to try to refute that. Okay. The other purpose for sources, it could give you a theory or method to influence the approach. Okay. So this could give you some of the information that you need in order to filter what you're going to do for the remainder of the essay. And put through that filter, it's going to give you better structure. It's going to give you more form. It's going to give your reader an idea of what you're coming from or where you're coming from. Okay. For example, I have my master's thesis, and I had 3 sources that I used as part of this. Okay. 3 primary sources that I used for theory or method, okay? Because I was dealing with things about mythology. So there were 3 versions of mythology that I wanted to explore that all pop up in popular culture. One of them is the hero's journey. Now you may recall we saw a video when we were talking about fair use last week, talking about the hero's journey. It goes a little bit more complex than that. There's actually a lot of story beats that are very common to several pieces of world folklore, several pieces of mythology, several pieces of religious folklore. Okay, but it's also used in modern storytelling. Okay, so I had 2 sources that dealt with the hero's journey. Okay, one of them was from the originator, Joseph Campbell. He had a work called The Hero's Journey, or The Hero with 1,000 Faces is what it was called. Okay. Then there was a second source that had taken the hero's journey and had adapted it for screenwriting. Okay, so I was using that as a way to show how it's been modernized. Okay, second one, there is actually a version of the hero's journey called the American Monomyth. Okay, and the American Monomyth deals kind of in a story trope that feels like a comic book, where you have an outsider hero who comes into a place that's been violated by crime, trouble, invaders, whatever. The hero comes in, solves the problems, cleans up the place, and then at the end, you can go either walk off in the sunset to go to the next violated Eden, is how they put it in the text, or he could stay and become a member of the community. Okay, this was actually put out in a book titled "The American Monomyth," and superhero stories were actually a huge influence on this. Okay, so I use that as part of my thesis. The third part is a field called semiotics, which is about how people create symbols, symbology, really. Okay, and it's how modern stuff becomes symbolic and becomes really mythic in and of itself. Okay, there were two authors who had two different books coming from two decidedly different decades, and we're talking about semiotics. One was a book called Mythologies, written by a French philosopher named Roland Barthes. Okay, I would recommend that book to anybody because it's a series of essays where he talks about how we've created images of the past based on how it's portrayed in the present. Okay, the best example of this is when he talks about how our version of what the Roman Empire was like comes from the movie version of Julius Caesar. Okay. Then we have the other one. The other book was called American Mythologies. It was written by a American semioticist named Marshall Blonsky. Okay, he dealt with how American culture has created symbols in and of itself. Some of it was a lot more lowbrow than Barthes, although Barthes did have one essay about professional wrestling. Blonsky went into advertising and porn as two of the things that created symbols in American society and American pop culture. So that actually helped me to, all those sources together helped me to find the lenses that I needed to put all these works through so that I could properly analyze them for their mythic qualities. So that's what I'm talking about when you talk about theory or method to influence approach. You're using those research sources as a guideline for how you're going to approach the rest of the research. Now let's get to the main event here, and that's talking about evaluating your sources. Okay, so how can you figure out what kind of good sources, whether your sources are good or not? Okay, well, first thing you have to check is your reliability. How accurate is the source against other sources reporting the same or similar facts? Okay, what are you seeing in terms of your research sources reporting a particular set of facts? Are they coming to similar conclusions? Are they coming to reasonably similar conclusions? Okay. Are facts distorted to serve the author's own agenda? Do you know that the author has some kind of axe to grind, or if the author has some belief system that they are desperate to get other people to believe in? So they're going to push that belief system through their research however they can. Okay. Is the manipulation of facts acknowledged by the author? Okay. This is important because the author has to be upfront about how their own opinions and their own attitudes might influence the way they see the research. So they need to be able to acknowledge how the information could be manipulated or massaged to fit an agenda. Okay. Are the facts checked by an independent source? Are you able to confirm through a third party that the facts that this person is working with are actually facts? Okay. The last one, how well edited is the source? Editing is more of an issue with web-based sources than print sources. So if it's a web source and you're having trouble trying to read it, if it's not really well edited, it's probably going to be suspect. Okay. If it is a publication, and it's also one of the things where it's self-published by the author and he's is dead set against editing because it's against his religion, that's probably going to be suspect. Okay, let me give you an example here of what we're talking about with reliability. And this is going to be primarily about comparing the sources to each other. Okay, So imagine, if you will, you are writing an essay about ancient Egypt construction methods, okay? Specifically in context with building the pyramids, okay? You have 5 research sources, and they're going to give you the story about how the pyramids were physically constructed and how they handled manpower. Okay, that's the things you're mainly interested in. Source number 1. Source number 1 tells you that the pyramids were constructed using a complex series of scaffolds and engineered using a lot of advanced mathematics. And it also says that a good percentage of the labor force used to construct them was slave labor. Source number 2. Source number 2 tells you that the Egyptians used a very complex road system to get the blocks out down to the Valley of the Kings. And also tells you that there were a lot of day laborers that they also used in addition to the slaves in terms of workforce. Source number 3 gives you a comprehensive picture diagram of the scaffolds that were used to construct the pyramid. Did not mention a lot about labor practices. It just mentioned that there were a lot of people involved. Source number 4. Source number 4 is telling you that it is amazing to think that these blocks were transported so far just using the technology of the time. And how they were well engineered, how they have lasted the test of time. It again didn't mention the labor force at all. Then you have source number 5. Source number 5 says the pyramids are too complex to have been made by an ancient people at the same time as the mammoths walking the earth. Therefore, there's only one conclusion possible: aliens. Okay? So, if you think about it, 4 out of those 5 sources are going to be probably very close to each other. You have one obvious outlier, but then you may have some others that may not fit for certain aspects of your paper. For instance, the source number 4, who didn't mention anything about the labor force, probably not going to be usable if you're talking about the manpower. Possibly same with number 3, because they didn't go into too much detail. They just said, oh, a lot of people built them. Okay? For techniques and methods, though, those 2 sources would probably work for you. For manpower, the first 2 sources would probably work better for you, because they have a dispute going on whether there was more slave labor or more paid labor that constructed them. Okay? So this is what I mean about looking at all of your sources available, and this is how you're going to be able to cull out which ones are going to be unreliable. All right, let's talk about credibility. Okay, this is the second factor in evaluating your resources. So, credibility deals with internal factors. Okay, as opposed to external factors for reliability. External factors are going to be like they're using the facts and this is how they're presenting them. Internal factors is who is presenting them. What kind of person is it? What kind of qualifications do they have? So what this comes down to is how much do you trust the author? Okay? Is the author an expert in the field? Okay? If they're an academic and writing for a journal, this is probably going to be reliable. Okay? If it's somebody who is a known expert in the field, that's going to be reliable. Okay? Is it a trustworthy observer? Is it somebody who has experience with it firsthand? Okay? I will say this. I hate to say this because I love historians, but if I have to choose between the word of a historian, if I want to hear about, let's say, I'm going to go slightly less controversial and say the bombing of Hiroshima. If I have the choice between listening to a historian talk about it or listening to a survivor of the bombing talk about it, I'm going to go to the survivor of the bombing every time because they have firsthand knowledge. Okay, they know what's going on. They were there on the ground. Okay, more than that historian who probably is just reading everything second or third hand. All right. Could be as simple as liking the way the author dresses. Okay, one thing that they do have, uh, they do talk about when you deal with public speaking, you have to dress for the occasion, or in other words, you don't want to be wearing your clown suit to a funeral. Okay, if you have somebody who is dressed properly for the occasion, who's respectful, who is really on top of things in terms of how they present themselves, then that's going to influence how well you believe them, how credible you find them. Okay. Fourth one, popular author or not so popular author? Is it somebody who has a built-in audience? Is it somebody who can be talked about, who is talked about consistently? Okay. Is it somebody who you can trust is going to give you something straight? Or is it somebody who maybe you have not heard of before? Maybe their credibility is kind of suspect because maybe they don't have a lot of experience yet. Maybe they're not as much of an expert. Okay. All these things are going to come together to try to determine what kind of credibility your author has. One thing to keep in mind, writers earn their credibility through moral courage, integrity, and consistency of principle. Okay. One pair of authors that you hear about constantly if you study U.S. history. Okay. One pair of authors that comes up a lot when you start talking about the 70s is Woodward and Bernstein. This is Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward. Okay. They are two writers. They were both journalists. They worked for the Washington Post. Okay. They are known for the investigative reporting, which ultimately led to the resignation of Richard Nixon as president, because they brought the Watergate scandal to the public and made it too big to ignore. Okay. Ultimately, their reporting, from one of the, including information they got from a confidential source who they only identified as Deep Throat. The information that they got wound up leading to a congressional investigation of the burglary of the Democrat headquarters at the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. Ultimately led to the discovery that it had been a plot that had been planned from the top down, and there was a lot of corruption involved. There was a lot of stuff going on. Nixon was trying to save his own butt, but so he wound up trying to fire everybody in the Justice Department that was working on the case. Eventually, it led to him resigning in disgrace. Okay. Woodward and Bernstein are still at it. Okay. You may have heard about them because Woodward, about a month and a half ago, put out a book about the current president. And part of the news was he recorded himself, recorded some interviews that he had with the president, and has him on tape saying that he tried to downplay the virus. Okay, so there's a lot of moral courage and integrity going there. This is like 40 years after the fact. Okay, close to 50 years after the fact. Okay. And Woodward and Bernstein are still doing the same thing. Okay? So that lends a lot of credibility to those two guys. Alright, that gets us to angle of vision. Okay? So how does the author's underlying values, assumptions, or beliefs shape the argument as it is presented? Okay? What kind of belief system does the author work from or work with? How have they been raised? What kind of things are ingrained into that author? How are they going to present that in terms of their research? How's it going to influence what they have to say? Okay. So some things you should do in this, if you're unsure about this, is research the author. Okay. What kind of politics do they have? Some are going to be more obvious than others, especially if they're columnists. They will definitely have obvious politics. Okay. Education. What kind of learning have they done? What kind of background do they have? What kind of degrees do they hold? Okay. Some interesting ones that in journalism that I've learned about that and recently that kind of surprised me. One of them, then again, not so much. One of them was learning that Rachel Maddow actually has a PhD in political science. Okay, and she does journalism. Okay, so think about what kind of education your author has. Okay, upbringing. How were they raised? What kind of background do they have in their childhood? Is there something there that may have influenced the way they write or influenced their belief system, influenced how they think about things? Also, look at their reputation. We just talked about Woodward and Bernstein. They have a stellar reputation. Okay, look at the reputation of the author. Look at the reputation of what they've done, who they've been associated with, what they've been associated with. Okay. Also, you should research the genre of the writing. Okay, evaluate who the audience is. What kind of people is that author trying to talk to? What kind of audience is that writer creating their stuff for? Look also at the market niche. What quarter of the market does the publication exist for? Are they looking for a specific audience, one that has a certain characteristic to it that may or may not help your case? Also look at the political reputation of the publication. Is it something that is trustworthy? Is it something that people know where they're coming from? Look at also the political spectrum. Okay? One thing that will help you with this, a base knowledge of the political spectrum and how authors, publishers, and websites fall in the chart is useful in the evaluation of sources because there will be biases involved. And they will have a vested interest in trying to make themselves seem more right than their opposition. Okay? Obvious bias toward one end of the spectrum or the other can lead to coloring of facts to suit their politics, may render those facts unusable for the sake of a persuasive essay. Okay? So keep that in mind. If somebody is got a political axe to grind and they're coloring their facts with their politics, that is ultimately going to lead you astray and you're not going to be able to use those sources, okay? Because that source is going to be unreliable. Now, the big thing about this is that the next slide here is going to have some examples. It says authors, publications, and blogs. It's mostly just publications. It shows where they all lie on the political spectrum. It also tells you where they lie in terms of reliability, that is to say trustworthiness. Okay? So let's take a look at that chart and we'll take a look at some of the publications that are there. So as you can see, this is about 3 years old. This is the third version of this chart. I have not seen if there is an updated one yet, but if there is one, I'm gonna look and see if there's an updated one after I get done with this. If there is one, I will actually post it to the PowerPoints and YouTube lectures link on eCampus. Okay, so look for that. So this chart is called "What Exactly Are We Reading?" It's by Vanessa Otero, who is a professor of public policy. Okay. It comes from a website called All Generalizations Are False. All right, I have the link there for this specific chart. Now, this is a media bias / media quality chart. If you take a look at the spectrum here, we're running on an XY axis. Okay, so the x-axis is going to be their position on the ideology spectrum. Okay, obviously from right wing to left wing. Okay, as you go to and then the middle is going to be moderate. Okay, or as they put it here is mainstream at the middle. And going out from the middle, from mainstream, it goes to skews, hyperpartisan, utter garbage / conspiracy theories. Okay. Now you get to the y-axis. The y-axis is going to be the reliability of the reporting, okay, the honesty, okay, based on what they actually report. And from top to bottom is going to be how you want to look at. So at the very top is original fact reporting, followed by fact reporting, complex analysis, opinion or fair persuasion, selective or incomplete story, unfair persuasion. Propaganda contains misleading facts, contains inaccurate / fabricated info. Okay? So it goes from absolute truth to utter crap. Okay, is what it basically boils down to. Now, there's also some subcategories. If you look at the key on the right-hand side here, read along with me here. Circles and ellipses represent range that stories within a source often fall. Not true for all sources, though. Okay, so they're going to have a range where they're going to fall in both politics and reliability. Okay. And then we have the rectangles. Okay, the green rectangles are news organizations. The yellow rectangle are fair interpretations in the news. Orange rectangles are unfair interpretations of the news. The red rectangles are nonsense damaging to public discourse. She does not mince words here. Okay, so let's take a look at who's on this chart. Starting from the very top. Follow my mouse. Okay, so at the very top here, these are the news organizations. They all tend to fall within the green rectangle here. At the very top here are the news wire services, the Associated Press, Reuters, AFP. Okay. We also have Bloomberg News up here. They put local newspapers up here, depending on whether they have a liberal city or conservative city. Then we have the news networks, NBC News, ABC News, CBS News. Okay. We have NPR, National Public Radio. We have the BBC, PBS. And then we're getting to newspapers and news websites. We have The Hill, USA Today, Christian Science Monitor, Politico, Axios, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. Now the next group here is going to start drifting into the yellow box. Remember, the yellow is fair interpretations of the news. So that gets us to the Washington Post, Al Jazeera, Time, and the Fiscal Times. Okay, they kind of straddle the line between the green, which is straight up news, and the yellow, which is fair interpretations of the news. Now, getting into what's in the yellow box. Okay. They're starting to be a little bit more polarized. The only exception here, we have a couple here. I don't recognize one of them, but the other one I know for sure is The Economist. Okay. We also have The Guardian over here. Now, slanting more between liberal and conservative, skews liberal but still reputable, ranging then to hyperpartisan. Okay. If we go in that category, we have this Democracy Now!, Jacobin, The New Yorker, The Nation, The Intercept, can't read that one, The Week, Vox, Slate, Daily Beast, Mike, Vanity Fair, Mother Jones, and MSNBC. Okay? If we go to hyperpartisan conservative, or skews conservative, what we have here is the National Review, the Weekly Standard, Reason.com, the Washington Examiner, Washington Times, and another one that I can't read. Okay. So those are all into the yellow box. Okay. You notice we have one organization that straddles the yellow and the orange boxes. And remember, orange is unfair interpretation of the news, so it's starting to drift down into there. And she also puts them close to the mainstream. That would be CNN. Okay. But as you can see, now they're starting to swing way political, okay, with only a couple exceptions, okay? So if we go to over here to hyperpartisan liberal, and it also ranges over to utter garbage conspiracy theories. In the orange box, you have Huffington Post, New Republic, BuzzFeed News, Second Nexus, Daily Kos, and Alternet, okay? So those guys are starting to get way political to the left. And you go way political to the right, here's what you find. You have the Federalist, OAN, which is One American News, the Drudge Report, the New York Post, and then more towards skews conservative and drifting into mainstream, also drifting into the red box, is the Daily Mail, which is a British newspaper, considered to be a British tabloid. Okay. Now we're getting into the red rectangle, nonsense damaging to public discourse. Here's the one thing I've always found interesting about this chart. You may recall up at the top here, NBC, ABC, CBS News were all in the mainstream, and they were all in the green box. The other network news is Fox News. It's down here in the hyperpartisan conservative, and it's in the red box, which is the nonsense box. Okay? That's not to say that there isn't nonsense on every side. Okay? But let's take a look at who is on each side here. So on the left side, from hyperpartisan to utter garbage, we have Forward Progressives, U.S. Uncut, a couple I can't read, Occupy Democrats, Natural News, Palmer Report, and Patrobiotics. Okay? This one I cannot read. Okay? Going down to the mainstream in this, almost down the center here, skewing to the right kind of, in the red rectangle, we have the National Enquirer. We mentioned them before, the supermarket tabloid. Slightly more partisan to the right here, we have World Truth TV. Okay? Now, in the hyperpartisan to utter garbage category, here's what you find. You find Fox News, Daily Wire, Conservative Tribune, the Daily Caller, Newsmax, Red State, The Blaze, Breitbart News, and then you notice here none of the there's only two there at the very bottom of the y-axis where absolutely nothing can be trusted from them. One of them is World Truth TV. Notice who the other one is. It's InfoWars. It's way far over to conservative utter garbage. Way down at the bottom, contains inaccurate, fabricated info. It's down at the furthest corner of the nonsense damaging to public discourse rectangle. Okay, which is pretty accurate. Okay, so this gives you an idea from all of these publications. If you're finding information from these, you know where they lie on both the political spectrum and on that reliability scale. Let's also talk about degree of advocacy. Okay? How obviously does the author take a stance in the source? Okay? So first off, we have objective versus persuasive. So here's the thing to consider there. Does the author have skin in the game? Are they going to directly benefit or directly detriment from any result of that particular subject? Okay? Does that argument affect them directly? Or is the author a mere observer? Are they looking from the outside and saying, hey, this is what this person says, this is what this person says. Let's weigh them against each other. Okay? Does the author have a membership in an advocacy organization? Okay. For instance, the NRA, the Sierra Club, the John Birch Society, any other kind of advocacy group. Okay? Are they from like a think tank or any other kind of lobbying organization or anything like that? Okay, consider what kind of membership the author has. Does the author hold a grudge? Okay, could be just as simple as I hate this person. I'm going to do everything I can to destroy them. Okay, weigh the evidence carefully, because the interpretation of data can be called into question, especially if it's somebody who has a known axe to grind. Okay. Now, keep in mind, neutrality will usually provide better resources. You do not want to rely on a lot of hyperpartisan stuff because they will skew things to try to make themselves look more right. Okay? Social media tends to be a minefield of opinions, so be cautious about using sources from sites like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. Okay? This is especially true of Facebook because they have a tendency to have a lot of people who share third-party news sites, third-party articles. Okay, a number of them have been found to be from misinformation farms. Okay, there are certain ones that are absolutely questionable just based on their past reputation. Some of them fall on that chart that we were just looking at. Others, they're not on the chart, but they have affiliations that are suspect. Okay. Trolling efforts tend to center on social media, so it's vital to be able to detect fake accounts that may not be trustworthy. Okay, this is if you are strictly if you are judging based on the social media presence. Okay, so one thing that's just come out this year, Clemson University has put out a website called spotthetroll.org. Okay, and this is a test that will help you train you to spot professional trolling. This will help you figure out who is a legit presence on social media and who is a bot. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm actually going to take the test with you guys, and you guys can play along here. We're going to try to determine who is and who isn't a bot. Okay, who is or isn't a troll. So we're going to learn how to spot these things as we go along. Okay. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to go to spotthetroll.org. It is a series of questions. It's kind of like a multiple choice quiz. I will show you the information that they have. I'll give you about, let's say, 2 minutes. Okay. Well, actually, it's going to be about 3 minutes. Okay. Give you 3 minutes for each one to try to determine whether they are a troll or not. Okay. Based on your evaluation, I want you to keep track of your responses on questions to the professor. I'm going to set up a thread for this. Okay. I want you to be honest now. Okay. If you blow one, you need to be honest that you blew it. Okay. But I want you to, when you post to questions to the professor, I want you to say what makes you think, whether you think it's a troll or not, and what makes you think it is, or what makes you think it isn't. Okay. So give me some reasons why you think it is a troll or isn't a troll. All right. So let's take a look at spotthetroll.org. All right. So here we are in Clemson colors here, purple and orange. Okay. It's called Spot the Troll, the quiz where you examine images of real social media content and decide whether it's from a legitimate account or an internet troll. Okay. So let's go ahead and start. Again, keep track of your answers. Post them to questions to the professor, whether you think it's a troll or not, and why or why not. Okay. And again, be honest. You cannot. I'm not going to allow you guys to erase answers. If you thought it was a troll and it turned out it wasn't, you have to admit that. Okay. That's half the fun. All right. Welcome, real human. A troll is a fake social media account often created to spread misleading information. Each of the following 8 profiles include a brief selection of posts from a single social media account. You decide if each is an authentic account or a professional troll. After each profile, you'll review the signs that can help you determine if it's a troll or not. Okay? And we're going to go to profile 1. So here's profile number 1. It's from it's a woman named Chloe Evans. This is a Twitter page. Listed as a student from Atlanta, joined June 2014, 196 following, 54 followers. Okay. We have a profile photo. We have a homepage photo. Okay. First one. This is all going to hell. # dead horse. That's pleasant. Next post. But who is responsible? Obama? # dead horse. # chemical accident Louisiana. And we have a screenshot of a, looks like the front page of CNN, dated September 11th, 2014. Looks like they wanted us to focus on this one. Plant explosion in Centerville caused panic. The plant explosion at Columbian Chemicals Company, Centerville, Louisiana, caused the wave of panic among the residents of the nearby towns. Okay. Next one. Bravery is the capacity to behave properly even when scared half to death. Omar N. Bradley. # quote. # true. Okay. # something you didn't know about me. I used to be a model. Next post. Don't ask what the meaning of life is. You define it. # quote. # true. And last one. Maturity is a bitter disappointment for which no remedy exists unless laughter could be said to remedy anything. # Kurt_Vonnegut. Okay. So, 3 minutes. think about what you just saw here. Think about any evidence that you may think of that may prove or disprove this particular person is a troll, or if it's a legit website, or if it's a legit profile. Okay? Give you 3 minutes. All right, so hopefully you have come up with your answer. Are you ready to find out? Here we go. So this profile is a troll. Okay. Here's the information. Chloe was a Russian-made troll account. Hundreds of Twitter accounts like Chloe were active throughout 2014 and 2015. These trolls were an early, highly automated effort by the Internet Research Agency, IRA, based in St. Petersburg, Russia. Unfortunately, the agency has gotten much, much better at its job. Okay? So let me show you how you can tell this was a troll site. So continue to signs. Signs of possible trolls. First off, a hoax event. Early IRA accounts like Chloe pushed hoax events that never happened, like the CNN post below, which was a fake story photoshopped to look real. Okay? Here's another thing that they don't tell you about in this explanation. Okay? Look at the style of the writing between this article and this article. Okay? So this one was a legit CNN article. Obama, we will degrade, ultimately destroy ISIS. Difficult speech for Barack Obama. President announces U.S. airstrikes will hit targets in war-ravaged Syria as well as Iraq. Okay? That is commonly known as a lead, spelled L-E-D-E. Okay? It basically gives you the idea of what the article is going to be talking about before it gets into the explicit details. Okay? But you'll notice that also the writing style. It's written in present tense. Okay? It's also very distinct and to the point. Okay? Then we get to the hoax event. Planned explosion in Centerville caused panic. Okay? First off, we have no photo credit. Okay? Also, past tense. That's not used in journalism. The planned explosion at Colombian Chemicals Company, Centerville, Louisiana, caused a wave of panic among the residents of the nearby towns. This is horribly bad English. Okay? Not something that you would expect at a news site. Okay? Also, they couldn't even be bothered to match the whites. Okay? So here we go. Next sign. Profile images of attractive women. These fake accounts typically use profile images of women in their 20s. This is a common tactic of internet charlatans still today. Okay, so that attractive woman who followed you probably is not an attractive woman. It's probably a 40-year-old overweight Russian man. All right, that gets us to profile number 2. This is another Twitter account, okay? So let's take a look at this one and then let you guys figure it out. So profile 2 of 8. This is from the Twitter account of Harmony Anderson. The Twitter account is @HarmonyAnders. This college girl who managed to stay conservative, hashtag pro-life, hashtag pro-2A, hashtag America First. This is my second account where I share my political and social views. Ankeny, Iowa, joined September 2019. 3,162 following, 4,216 followers. Let's take a look at the posts. Okay. Pennsylvania voter rolls near Pittsburgh are full of inaccuracies. 1,583 dead people registered to vote. 7,500 flagged as duplicate voters. Nearly 50 born in the 1800s. 2020 runs through Pennsylvania. Retweet for National Voter ID now. US Trump 2020. Which is also includes a video clip to looks like an undercover camera. Okay. From a site called Cup of Joe. Next one. 22 million or even more illegals now in America, and the Dems want them all to have full citizenship and voting rights. The Demo-Rat Party has been getting illegal votes for years because that's the only way Bloomberg or any Dem candidate can win. Emmy. Okay, so this is another film clip, another video clip. Next one. A retweet of the First Lady. Thank you, Sarvodaya School, for welcoming me with the lovely Tilak and RT tradition. Okay. Another retweet, this one from James Woods. Yeah, why would Vogue ever want to put this stunning, timeless classic beauty on their cover when they can have a linebacker in drag? What hypocrites they are. Hashtag FLOTUS is astounding. Then this next one is one that she put out. It's possible he's under the impression he's been running for Senate this whole time. To a news clip, Joe Biden. My name is Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. If you don't like me, you can vote for the other Biden. Then we have this one. I'd heard this before, but fascinates me that it was almost 30 years ago. He's been talking about it for years, and it's only intensified, but Donald Trump is a true patriot. I'm so proud to call this man our leader. This is a never-aired Donald Trump interview from 1980. Okay. From realinthesomething.com. This is the watermark on that. Okay, also from Emmy. Okay, so again, 3 minutes, and try to determine whether this is a troll account or if it's a legit account. right, you ready? Here we go. This is a troll account. Okay? Harmony is a troll we attributed to the Russian Internet Research Agency in March 2020. We then worked with Twitter to have her account suspended. Like many other trolls, Harmony poses as a young woman who has very strong political opinions and sets herself up in direct opposition to extreme version of people on the other side of the political divide. Harmony's goal is to make us more entrenched in our beliefs with one another and make meaningful compromise more difficult to achieve. So let's take a look at the signs that this is a troll. First off, lack of political info. Lack of personal info. It's important to notice what isn't in Harmony's profile. Anything other than politics. There's no identifying info about family, school or work, friends, pets, houseplants, nothing. Okay, like she's a bot. Connecting to community. Troll accounts like Harmony often retweet prominent voices. These may include positive and uplifting content to gain credibility and connect with their target audiences, which is why she was retweeting the First Lady and James Woods, who is a well-known Hollywood conservative. Okay? All right, so here we go with profile number 3. All right. So this is a Facebook profile for a gentleman named Christopher Warwick. Okay? Lives in Columbia City, Indiana, from Columbia City, Indiana. We have a profile photo for him. Looks like he's got a very nice family there. He duplicated the profile photo as his homepage photo. Okay. Here come the posts. Okay. Share this violent or graphic photo everywhere and tell Zuckerberg to suck it. Okay. So this is very much about kneeling for the flag. It's from retweeted from Florida 4 Warriors. Some things need to always be remembered, honored, and respected. Our country and the heroes fighting for it, and us, our history, all of it, good and bad. Okay? And this is all about respecting the flag and respecting the anthem. Okay, next post. This photo of Chick-fil-A honoring fallen soldiers on Memorial Day is triggering liberals across social media. Let's make it go viral, share 1 million times. Okay? Next one. This is how you have fun in the tractor. So it takes a photo with his kid, and they're chugging along on the tractor. Okay? Next one. Reposted from Greek Gateway. Pray for the world. May God bless everyone. Hashtag coronavirus. Okay? Nice piece of artwork there. Next post. Don't forget about this place for lunch. And it's a photo of, looks like a diner called the Columbia Locker Incorporated, Fresh Meats and Deli, who produces lunch specials. That's nice. Okay. Next one. Makes you want to reread that passage again. This was a meme that I've seen circling a little bit. Painting of God that says, "I didn't say the end of the world would be signaled by trumpets. I said Trump Pence." Okay. Last post. Oh no, it's next door. Quick, everyone panic. Oh wait, everyone already thinks it is thanks to the media. So this is linked to a, looks like a local newscast about COVID-19. First COVID-19 case confirmed in Northeast Indiana. First confirmed case of the COVID-19 variation of coronavirus in Northeast Indiana. Okay. All right, so 3 minutes again. Try to determine whether this is a legit account or if it's troll. right. Do you think you know what this one is? Are you ready? This one is legit. Okay. Chris is a real person. Chris is a kind husband and father living in Columbia City, Indiana. We can confirm he is real because we know him personally. Okay? So what are the signs that this is a legit account? First off, posts about life. Chris shares personal content about his family and his community, such as the local lunch spot recommendation below. Okay? So remember, he had a thing about his diner. He also had a thing about having fun in the tractor with his daughter. Okay? That was a real photo of the real rearview mirror while he's got a real combine behind his real tractor while he's holding his real daughter behind the wheel. Okay? And next one, multi-dimensional views. Chris does not push out constant messages supporting extreme views. For example, while some of his political posts are right-leaning, he also pokes fun at President Trump. This meme actually is a good sign that he was legit, that he was not a troll, because he was willing to see the humor in this as opposed to just ignoring it in favor of whatever right-wing meme he could find. Okay? All right, so here we go to the fourth profile. All right, so this is a profile from Instagram. Okay? We're going to take a look at this and see if it's troll or legit. All right? So the account is called Power to Women. Okay? American feminist. She needed a hero, so that's what she became. So here is the postings. Okay? First one. This is a meme. If this makes you angry, but you're okay with this, then it's not about the flag. Okay? What Republicans are saying very loudly and clearly is that no woman in this country has the right to control her own body. I disagree. A quote from Bernie Sanders. Okay? Another quote from Bernie Sanders. We are going to fight to pass the long overdue Equal Rights Amendment. With some analyzing text. Women's rights to control their bodies must be observed and respected. We need a leader who will end this toxic rhetoric that the government has the right to control our bodies. Bernie Sanders is just the one. I have so much respect for him, and I truly believe that he'll make women's lives better. Hashtag feminism, hashtag intersectional feminism, hashtag women's march, hashtag feminist, hashtag feminist aesthetic, hashtag Bernie Sanders, hashtag feel the burn, hashtag birth control, hashtag abortions, hashtag feminists for Bernie. Okay, next post. Notre Dame coach Muffet McGraw calls for more women in positions of power. We don't have enough female role models. We don't have enough visible women leaders. We don't have enough women in power. So lit. Okay. In today's episode of Massive Hypocrisy, every life is precious, not my problem. Hypocrisy at its finest. Hashtag feminism, hashtag abortion, hashtag Planned Parenthood, hashtag misogyny, hashtag feminist. Okay. Next one's another meme. Not a single woman was at the White House meeting on women's health. With an extensive analysis. What's going on with this country? Imagine if dozens of women gathered to make decisions on men's health. Imagine men's reaction to this. However, none of them raised the question whether it is right for men to decide on the issues that they have no knowledge and understanding at all. Sick and tired of this. This made me think of how great it would be if we had a government body consisting only of women, and this body could veto any bill it finds discriminatory. Moreover, it could also draft and submit bills concerning women. Just imagine if women could benefit the lives of other women on the governmental level. How cool would that be? Hashtag feminism, hashtag feminist, hashtag government, hashtag White House, hashtag women's health, hashtag men's health, hashtag Planned Parenthood, hashtag women's rights. Lots of hashtags there. Okay. All right. So, just judging from what you've seen here, another 3 minutes. Is this a troll or not, and why? right, and we're back. Have you decided whether it's a troll or whether it's legit? You ready? This is a troll site. The Instagram account Power to Women is a troll. It was identified by Facebook, which owns Instagram, in October 2019 as part of a network of 50 Instagram accounts they suspended. These accounts were said by Facebook to be originating in Russia and showed links to the Internet Research Agency. There's those guys again. Okay? How do we know that this was a troll site? It's an affinity group with no clear organizer. Power to Women presents itself as an affinity group rather than a person. This is likely because Instagram and Facebook users don't typically follow non-famous strangers, but do follow groups they like. Another problematic sign is that no person or organization is listed as running the group. Okay? Usually we'd have some kind of contact. Okay? For or against. Power to Women takes advantage of its followers' passion to encourage extreme polarization and suggests that compromise is impossible. Okay? So that's why they are very much one side and very much against the other. Okay? No compromises. All right. Let's take a look at the next one. All right. So this is another Twitter profile. Okay? Let's take a look at the bottom. Let's take a look at it. This is the profile of Amy G. Daughter, sister, proud black American. I tend to get political. New York, New York. Joined January 2019. Okay, let's take a look at the post that she puts up. Okay, post number 1: Republicans better hope the coronavirus isn't spread from kissing ass. Okay, all right. I can appreciate the humor there. Next one: you don't have to say anything to the haters. You don't have to acknowledge them at all. You just wake up every morning and be the best you can be, and that usually tends to shut them up. Quote from Michelle Obama. Next post. On Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, we make America great again by voting this nightmare out of office. Hashtag Trump is a Russian asset. Hashtag Russian interference. Okay. Next one. American injustice. Crystal Mason, black Texas woman, accidentally voted while on probation, didn't know was illegal, 5 years in prison. Roger Stone, rich white man, knowingly lied to Congress, tampered with witnesses, threatened the federal judge, only 3 years in prison. Next one. It's a video clip. Is I going to jail? The 6-year-old was held at a mental health facility for 2 days and reportedly sedated without her mother's permission after allegedly having a tantrum at school. This is outrageous. She is 6. Okay? And there is the video clip here. Okay? And here's the last post. Republican logic. Birth control, ban it. Abortion, ban it. Gay marriage, ban it. Guns, look, banning things never works. People will find ways to get them. Hashtag Seattle shooting, hashtag enough is enough. Okay. So again, take about 3 minutes. Is this a troll or is this a legit website? Or is this a legit account? Go. right, do you think you know? Let's see if you do. Amy is a troll. Like the previous right-leaning Twitter account, we identified Amy as Russian and worked with Twitter to suspend the account in March 2020. Amy pretends to be a left-leaning black woman, a common tactic among trolls. Amy's strategy is to engage with the black community and other other left-leaning users, gain followers among those users, and then use her influence to manipulate users' conversations and push particular political agendas. All right. So, what are the signs that this was a troll? First off, mimicking users who are part of a real and politically focused online community. During the 2016 presidential campaign, dozens of Russian accounts engaged in the Black Lives Matter community pretending to be minorities. This is a tactic referred to as digital blackface, and it has a long history online. Trolls continue to pretend to be members of many different online communities today, everything from Korean pop music fans to LGBTQ activists. Okay? The next one, fanning the flames. Like some right-wing trolls, Amy often frames real events and issues in a way that intensifies anger and division. Many real users may also do this for entirely valid reasons, but some disinformation operations have made anger and disgust into goals unto themselves. Okay? So she's not so much trying to inform you as much as she's trying to piss you off. Okay? All right. Let's go to profile number 6. All right, let's look through this account. This is another Twitter profile, okay, for a fellow named Chenjerai Kumanyika, scholar, journalist, and activist who works as an assistant professor in Rutgers University's Department of Journalism and Media Studies, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, joined September 2009. Let's take a look at Professor Kumanyika's posts, okay? While the programs that kept us safe, jobs, schools, public defenders, are being cut, police get a $14 million budget raise. At a time when police are killing black people, this has to change. Watch the hashtag Philly Police Budget Hearing 6-1, testify to hashtag Fund Communities, hashtag Defund the Police, post 6 of 9. Along with the electronic flyer from Movement Alliance Project, looks like a sample from their Twitter. Talking about this particular meeting. Okay? Next one. Man forging a check to get groceries in a crisis equals criminal. People damaging property to express justified rage and people taking property to survive equals looters. Corporations that starve economy through tax cuts and $500 billion bailouts equal corporate heroes. Okay? Okay, and just like that, blue lives didn't matter anymore. Okay? All right, next one. What a relief to see that Joe Biden stands with what... Oh, wait, never mind. So this is a retweet of Bernie Sanders. On this May Day 2020, I stand with the workers at Amazon, Whole Foods, Instacart, and Target who are on strike. Essential workers are putting their lives on the line and deserve protection and hazard pay. The endless corporate greed has got to end. Next one. I left track recording in Adobe Audition last night around 7 p.m. Just got to my computer right now. It was still recording. Wow. Next one's a retweet from Mark Lamont Hill. Brilliant piece explaining why COVID-19 is disproportionately affecting black women. The disparate impact of the coronavirus on black women is revealing and deepening existing inequalities. Fighting it requires an intersectional approach. All right. So 3 minutes here. Try to figure out if this is legit or if this is a troll. You think you know if this is a troll or not? Let's see if you're right. Here we go. This is a legit website. Professor Kumanyika is a real person. As his profile indicates, he is a scholar, journalist, and activist at Rutgers University. Okay? So how can you tell that this was a legit account? First off, identifiable information. While many real users prefer to remain anonymous on social media for a variety of valid reasons, all troll accounts are anonymous. Professional trolls avoid using identifying information that is easy to debunk, as Professor Kumanyika does in his profile. Okay? Because he lets you know where he works. Okay? In addition to where he lives. Also, local focus. Trolls tend to cast a wide, national, or global net with the focus of their content, rather than locally oriented items like the post below. And this is the Philadelphia City Council meeting. Okay? Alright, so let's go to the next profile. Alright, this is another Instagram profile. We're going to figure out if this is a troll or not. So this Instagram profile belongs to Nevada Blue Line. Description: Nevada Peace Officers, Thin Blue Line, and Blue Lives Matters. Let's support our heroes in blue together. Hashtag back the blue. Okay? So let's see what they're posting to Insta. Okay? First one: no matter the patch, we are all family and family sticks together. Cute. Police are the most mistreated people in America, but that's about to change. Let's do it together. Okay. Thank you to all the moms working patrol today. You have a warrior's heart and a mother's love. Thank you for serving and protecting. Okay. That sounds like it was supposed to be posted on Mother's Day. Okay. Law enforcement, we face what you fear. Police are needed to keep us safe from the criminals among us and the horrors of the world around us. Without them, we would be vulnerable and helpless. They are needed for without them, we are alone. Without police, everything would change. I support the men and women in blue, now and forever. Blue lives matter. Okay. A society that wants to make war with police better learn to make friends with its criminals. Evil is powerless if the good are unafraid. Okay. I don't always bite the bad guy. Just kidding. Yes, I do. Do you know that police dogs can and do bite with up to about 240 pounds of force or more? They are trained to contain potential threats, bite, and hold, but they should release if the perpetrator stops resisting and fighting back. Hashtag thick blue line, hashtag blue lives matter, hashtag hold the line, hashtag back the blue, hashtag swole patrol, hashtag fit for duty, hashtag we fight for what you fear, hashtag we own the night, hashtag relentless defender, hashtag law enforcement, hashtag thin blue line, hashtag act of kindness, hashtag above and beyond, hashtag oath of honor, hashtag officer safety, hashtag lead by example, hashtag sheepdog, hashtag stay vigilant, hashtag always strapped, hashtag a hero remembered never dies, hashtag Nevada police, hashtag Nevada, hashtag police of Nevada, hashtag US police. Then the last one looks just like a pin up here. Hashtag police, hashtag Nevada police, hashtag Nevada, hashtag K9. Okay, 3 minutes. Let's see if you can tell if this is a troll or not. Now, do you think you know whether this is a troll or not? Okay. Let's see if you're right. This is a troll account. The Instagram account Nevada Blue Line is a troll. It was also identified by Facebook as part of the October 2019 network of troll accounts originating in Russia. As you have seen with previous troll accounts in this quiz, disinformation attacks, multiple person objectives, and many cultural conflicts. This account furthers that conflict. Okay? So, let's take a look at what the signs are. It's a divisive affinity group. Like Power to Women, this group pushes a very for us or against us worldview. Okay? As an example, this is the one meme. Society wants to make war with police, better learn to make friends with its criminals. Okay? The other sign here, swing state affiliation. Trolls often associate themselves with a swing state to attract followers. However, closer examination often reveals no content focused on the state they claim to be from, in this case Nevada, and no information about the organizer who runs the account. Okay? So, those are signs that it could have been a troll account, that it was a troll account. Okay? Here's the last one, profile number 8. Alright, so this is a Facebook profile. Okay? We're going to try to figure out if this one's legit or not. This profile belongs to Mike Adams. Mike Adams, known as the Health Ranger, is an outspoken consumer health advocate, lives in Austin, Texas, from Tucson, Arizona. All right. Has 54,653 followers. Okay. Let's take a look at his posts. So first off, major U.S. brands demand EPA take action to stop pre-harvest spraying of toxic glyphosate on food crops. Okay. So that goes to a science.news from naturalnews.com. Okay. Next one's another link. 5 vegetable sprouts good for your health from naturalnewsblogs.com. There's no doubt about sprouting that has a variety of nutritional health benefits, so on and so forth. Okay. Next one. The geoengineering chemical of the future that has been dispersed by jet aircraft for decades. Hashtag chemtrails. Okay. Also naturalnewsblogs.com link. Okay. All right. Pesticides, GMO, BPA, hormones. Content not available right now. When this happens, it's usually because the owner only shared it with a small group of people, changed who can see it, or it's been deleted. Okay. This one also had the same treatment, but he says, think about it. This one didn't even have a caption. This one, wheatgrass literally has the ability to turn gray hair back to its natural color. Okay. Again, Natural News Blogs. Okay. So, this is the last one. So 3 minutes. Let's see if you can figure out whether this is a troll account or if it's a legit account. You think you know? Do you think you've got this one figured out? Well, let's see if you do. This profile is legit. Mike Adams, the health ranger, is a real person. He is the founder and owner of the website Natural News. His personal Facebook page is a tool to push users to his website where they will find sensational news stories, sometimes with little truth to them. Okay? You may actually remember Natural News showed up on that political affiliation chart that I showed you earlier. Okay? It's shown in the misinformation category. Okay? So let's see what the signs are that Mike Adams is a legit web profile. Misinformation for profit. Mike Adams uses social media to promote tabloid-like stories from the websites where he sells his products. Okay? So he's legit, but he's not exactly ethical. Okay? Also, content not available. Multiple removed posts are a huge red flag in determining trustworthiness, but they don't always prove that the account itself is fake. Okay? Because he's got a number of posts that have been removed, it does not necessarily mean that it's not a legit site, but it is one of the signs that has been used as a determiner for trolls in the past. Okay, so hopefully everybody did a good job with trying to pick out which one of these accounts was trolls and which one was not. All right, let's talk briefly about evaluating web sources. Okay. Now, web sources are wonderful in that they are convenient to find and easy to use, but they can also be a minefield of opinionated articles and urban myths. Okay. Now, you need to evaluate web sources similarly to how print sources are judged. Use critical reading and research into sites to help evaluate them. Okay. There's a number of things that you have to consider for websites. So one of them is authority. Who is the page sponsor? Are the author credentials identified? Is the sponsor's motivation clearly stated from the home page? Is there contact information for a webmaster so that you can contact them? Okay. These are things to consider for a website, and some of them work for print as well. Okay. You need to know who's going to profit. Okay. Objectivity. Is there a clear purpose to the site? Does it have an explicit point of view? Does the author's affiliations matter? Are they listed? Is the audience identified? Do you know who it's aimed for? All right. Then we have coverage. What topics are included on the site? Is there a suitable depth of coverage? And is there evidence presented? Do you have an idea of what they're presenting, how they're presenting it, where they're presenting it? Okay. Accuracy. Are their sources cited? Do their facts appear accurate? Are they independently verifiable? Okay. Can you fact check them and see, hey, yeah, this is legit. This is something that, yeah, this works. Okay. One thing also to think about with websites is currency. When was the last site update? When was the article uploaded? Is the information current or relevant at the present? Okay. How is that going to impact things? Well, if they're using old information and stuff has changed since it was published, the old facts are going to be useless to you. Okay. So another thing to look at is the domain identifiers. Okay, they are key to determining credibility of web sources. There's a few of them that you know for sure are going to be good. A few of them that are going to be questionable. Okay. So .coms are commercial sites. They promote business and marketing services, and they're typically no identified authors. Now, .coms typically are not usable unless it is something where you're researching that company in particular. The one exception to this, though, is that most major newspapers are .coms. Okay, so if it's a major newspaper, they're going to be a .com. That's going to be okay. All right. .org, nonprofit organizations or advocacy groups. Some neutral, but most of them with a distinct angle of vision. Okay, they will be trying to promote their nonprofit. All right. .orgs typically are going to be fairly legitimate, but just keep in mind that there are some questionable organizations that are .orgs. One in particular that comes to mind, the Westboro Baptist Church has a .org website that I will not repeat because it's patently offensive. Okay. .edu, college and university sites, typically including institutional information as well as scholarly and advocacy links. Stuff at .edu tends to be accurate, okay, and tends to be reliable. All right. .gov and .mil. These are government agencies and military units. There will be a wide range of data and support for policy. So these are also tend to be legitimate. These also tend to be usable. Okay. So evaluate your own purpose for using the web source as well to help the evaluation process of your sources. Okay. Specifically, what kind of source do you need? Does your purpose call for a more objective view of the subject, or are you looking for an advocate? That will actually determine what type of site you need to go to and what type of sites you can use. Okay? All right, so that does it for this week, evaluating our sources. We'll be reconvening this again next week and doing some more stuff. In the meantime, I do want you guys to continue working on the blog project. Make sure your teams are together. Make sure you've gotten your blog platforms set up. Make sure you're ready to post. Okay. We'll continue going that. Again, remember that one's due on the 30th. We'll do another collaborate session this Wednesday, and I will see you guys then. Until then, thanks for watching.